Hey everyone, welcome to a Good E-Reader Roundtable. My name is Michael.
This is Peter.
Today we're going to talk about large screen e-readers and their place in the modern world.
Yeah. On the table, we basically have everything that people are doing right now. 13.3s, which Sony started a couple years back, started the whole trend. 10.3s, and of course the most famous large screen size, the 9.7.
Yeah, 9.7s were the first large screen e-readers. The Amazon Kindle DX.
That was the. This is the Icarus, Lumina XL. A bunch of other guys have done 9.7s. It was the most popular size before the 13.3 cracked in.
Yeah, and now sort of the industry went from 9.7s to 13.3s for about 3 years. And then everyone's going to 10.3s now, which is the Remarkable, the Sony digital paper. So it's the first non 13.3 device, the DPT-C
CP1.
Yeah. Yep. And then the Good E-Reader 10.3, which is upcoming.
Yep.
There is a lot of players. Onyx Book Note as well. So, I mean, large screen e-readers, they seem to be tremendously popular, not only for reading ebooks, but some of them have audiobook functionality via Bluetooth for wireless speakers, wireless headphones. Some of them even have 3.5mm headphone jacks.
And some of them have stereo speakers. The Onyx Books Note 10.3 has 2 speakers on the back.
Yeah, a lot of the e-readers that we have on the table, the 10.3s, the 9.7s, and so on, they all, for the most part, they have Android, so you can install apps, Google Play functionality. So Remarkable is the exception. It's just a digital note-taking PDF editor.
Sony as well is the exception, because when Sony DPT S1 came out a couple years back, although they were the guys to start the whole 13.3 and large screen e-reader, they kicked it off, they didn't have Android. And in fact, the second iteration, the RP1, didn't even allow you to connect to Wi-Fi on it. You know what I mean? So a lot of these guys have either completely open Android or completely super closed garden where you need PC desktop software in order to work it. Yeah,
I mean, Remarkable's like that. You need PC desktop software to transfer data to the device as well as transfer data off the device.
That's
so Sony and Remarkable are the same in that respect, but all the others run Android, and that's part of the draw between a large screen e-reader. That you could use the stock ebook reading app, the stock note-taking app. Most of the 10.3s and the 13.3s, they're primarily billed as digital note-taking devices.
Yes.
You draw, freehand, you could, do a background for music and write musical notes, freehand. You could also read ebooks with the stock apps, but the primary allure is sideloading your own apps.
That's right.
Either from your own personal app collection or from Google Play.
Stuff you can't do on the Sony. They didn't actually have any. Now, people are always asking us what the best size of screen is. And when we go to a lot of our meetings, when we meet other people that are in certain fields, like the medical field and stuff, we have found that it's something that kind of comes obvious, but not until we bring it to your attention. So 10.3s basically are the trend right now. Remarkable, Onyx, a bunch of other guys are doing it. This is a 10.3, and in comparison to a 13.3, it's drastically different. And if you think about it, a regular 8.5 by 11 piece of white paper will not fit on a 10.3, but it will fit on a 13.3.
So is that A4 or A5 for 13.3?
It's a little bit bigger than an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. I'm not sure if it's legal A4, A5, but for example, a lot of people that we had a meeting with a gentleman from India was just going over some stuff, and he was saying that he's in the medical field and he can't fit a full piece of paper on a 10.3. And we were like, oh yeah, you can't, because it's bigger. It has to be scaled down. Whereas on a 13.3, he can put all of his medical PDFs, all of his, patient's charts in full size, like a scaled one-to-one representation.
Yeah, so 13.3s are A5 and 10.3s are A4.
Probably around there,
So you won't be able to fit that full piece of paper on it. So if you have a PDF that is a full page, a scan page, you'll have to pinch and zoom. On this, it'll take up the full page.
You can either pinch and zoom, or on the small smaller guys, what happens, especially on the 9.7s, is that the regular piece of paper is about here, but everything has to get scrunched and squeezed. Right. So all of the technical stuff, you're like, oh, what is that? Like, oh man, it's so compressed now. You know, you got to open it up. And some of the earlier 9.7 inches don't even have touch screens on them, so you ended up having to like scroll with D-pads and stuff. So that's basically one of the advantages, although it's huge, of a 13.3.
Yeah, so a 13.3 is a replacement for paper.
Pretty much.
Because you could read paper without having to pinch and zoom. You could still like edit PDFs and things like that. Whereas like a 10.3, it's more of a hybrid. You can read PDFs, you can read ebooks, but you got to look at it as if 10.3 is more portable. It's lighter.
It's cheaper.
More affordable. Less of a footprint. You can easily put this like in your messenger bag, purse, and whatnot. With this, you're pretty well gonna leave that at work. If you're gonna commute and bring it at 13.3 to work every day, you're gonna need like a briefcase, a backpack, you know, something that's large. Your gym bag, you know, for example.
Or you leave it at your office.
That's right.
Yeah, you leave it in like lock and key kind of thing. Because these things aren't cheap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas like a 9.7 and a 10.3, which are pretty well about the same size.
Pretty close.
All in all.
If you look at it, like the bodies are almost the same size. It's basically just the bezel to body ratio. So it's like the 9.7 and the 10.3 roughly have the same shell. It's just there's very little bezels on the 10.3.
Right.
So that's really where it gets you.
Yeah, because they're touch screens. They have, for the most part, all of like the 10.3s and the 13.3s. All the modern ones have a Wacom layer and a touch screen layer, so you can interact with it with your fingers as well as a stylus. Yeah. So most of these devices, minus the Icarus, actually come with styluses as well.
Right.
Modern Onyx e-readers like the Note, the Max 2. Even the Carta, they all have like that sort of functionality. Right. The older devices, just stylus-like layers and things like that. So there is like a price gap. You are paying more for a 13.3 from Onyx, from Sony, from the other players like involved in this space. Whereas the 10.3s, they are a little bit more affordable, but they have better specs for the most part than the 10.3s.
Yeah, than the 13.3s. Yeah. And I think that's really what it was. When 13.3s came out, they were like $1,500, $1,400.
Single core processors, not a lot of RAM, not a lot of storage.
And then people are doing different things like the Guido, which is two of these side by side, $1,700 Canadian. You know what I mean? So that's probably why 10.3s are so popular right now, is because the Remarkable really kicked it off too. It was smaller, still large, still big, still note-taking, but way cheaper, into the 4, 5, and 600s rather than the 1,000, 1,100, 1,200s. That's really why I think they're so popular right now.
Yeah, and in terms of what's next for the rest of 2018 when it comes to large screen e-readers, well, Onyx has their Note S.
3 coming out, actually.
Yeah, well, they have the Note S, which is like sort of like a more affordable version of the Onyx Book Note, except I believe it's 9.7 inches instead of 10.3, so it'll be about the same size as like the Icarus. Good e-reader has a Kickstarter campaign soon to be going for our own 10.3, which is what you see here. It's the first 10.3 with a front light as well as a comfort light display.
Another topic, actually. We're just going to move into that right now too. So a lot of the things that people had to say, here, we'll boost this up for you guys to see, but a lot of the things that people wanted to bring up to us when they saw 13.3s was everyone's kind of the elephant in the room. They're like, okay, this is great, but hey guys, we can't use this at night because nothing had any glow light capabilities, whereas Mike just got it going here. So see it firsthand. Look at that.
All the 13.3s, 10.3s, 9.7s, they mostly don't have front lit displays, which limits their functionality in day or night.
That's absolutely true. Now, that was one of the things people were like, well, all the, I'm spending $1,400 on a device, I can't use it for half of the day. Whereas you just saw right here, we have both 14 warm LEDs and 15 blue LEDs, which means you can really turn it to any shade of orange or blue. And up until we put lights on ours, actually this guy right here, the 9.7, was the largest e-reader with a glow light you could find, which is this one. And none of the big boys had it. Remarkable didn't have it. Onyx didn't have it. Sony doesn't have it. No one had it. So it seemed like something so obvious, but you always wondered, why is it that you can't put glow lights in a large display? I mean,
you can.
It's just
like it's an added cost during the manufacturing process. It really is.
So it kills your profit margins, I understand, but it doubles the usability of it. Half the day is night, depending on where you live.
It's trade-offs. So for our 10.3, I mean, it has less RAM and a slower processor than the Onyx Note, but at the same time, it's a trade-off to getting lights to be able to use it in different circumstances. And it's still our e-reader, when it launches, will be $100 cheaper than the Remarkable and the Onyx Note, and it'll be $250 cheaper than the Sony,
which is a complete closed garden, no light, no Android, no nothing, you know what I mean? Whereas this has APK support, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, the whole bang, gyroscope. So in terms of large screen e-readers, it's hard to find a middle ground. People are saying, oh, I like the big size of the Sony. I like everything about the Sony. It's light, it's a good quality, it's come down in price since its launch, but it doesn't have glow light, doesn't have Android, doesn't have speakers, you know what I mean? So it's hard to find that all-in-one solution.
It's
when it comes to the big boys.
Niche purposes. Do you want just a dedicated note-taking device that kind of locks you into a walled garden?
Right.
Do you want a large screen e-reader that has Android capabilities so you can install your own apps? Do you want a 10.3 that's just designed for making notes and editing PDF files? Do you want a 10.3 that has Android, way more flexibility and freedom to customize your experience? Do you want a 10.3 that, that has lights and everything like that? It's use cases scenarios. It's not like a one size fits all.
Right.
It's very unlike the 6-inch space where everything's homogenized. Everything looks the same. Everybody offers the same, 300 PPI,
It's by the book. It's cookie cutter now.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really is. Whereas the 10.3 realm, you can really see that it's so different. There's no lights, but some of them use quad-core processors with USB-C, and some don't, but some have really good audio capabilities or really good note-taking capabilities. There isn't a cookie-cutter culmination of everything yet, because it's so new. Large screen devices are still so... they've been around for a couple of years, but if you think about it, they're still so new, and there aren't a whole lot of players in the game.
There's not, and it's a lot of risk.
It is,
if you want to say with Sony, they have a direct relationship with E-Ink. They get deals on manufacturing millions of units, but for smaller players like us, Onyx, Icarus, Boyu and things like that, they are limited to say they can only offer specific devices. Otherwise, who has $1 million or $2 million that they could outlay to design, manufacture,
that's just
cutting edge hardware, deca-core processors, 8 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage.
You probably could do.
But it's money. Could a company like e-reader or Onyx or Boyu or Icarus, could they invest $4 million in making a 10.3 e-reader with all the specs that everyone wants? Will they sell enough to make that worth it? Probably not, because e-readers are still a pretty fringe device.
That's the thing. You could do it. You could do it all day long and make the ultimate, absolute, everything all-in-one e-reader, but... 1, would anyone buy it, like you said? 2, would it be worth it in the end? And 3, the end cost would be $1,800.
Well, because it wouldn't be like that.
You know what I mean?
But
the manufacturing cost would be so much to put sound chips, Bluetooth chips, Wi-Fi, NFC, USB-C, dual speakers. It'd be so high by the time you're done, and LEDs. But that, it wouldn't be feasible. It'd be like, oh, here's our 10.3. It's $500 more than everyone else. It's hard to convince people on that when prices have just started going down.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's basically the spec equivalent of the Microsoft Surface or the iPad Pro, but packed in an e-reader with an e-ink screen. The reason why e-readers are so expensive is not the internals. It's the e-paper display that drives up 60 or 70% of the cost of the e-reader is is like the display, and then like the you know the circuits and whatever powering the display. That's the most expensive thing, because e-ink is the only major player in the e-paper space.
That's right.
You know, Plastic Logic, you know, Bridgestone, like Pixel Quee. There's been so many companies that tried to get involved in the e-paper space, but they just couldn't make a business model out of it. Clear Ink is like on the horizon, but will they meet the same fault as all the aforementioned companies, or will they be like a true e-ink alternative? That remains to be seen. We want to hear from you. Drop a comment below on everything that we've talked about today. For GoodEbeater.com, my name is Michael.
And this is Peter.
Everybody take care.